King 5 suited is typically a pretty junky hand, but when I see a limp from Tim and another limp from Dr. H, I think I can take control of this pot and outplay these guys post-flop. I raise it up to $250, Tim folds, and Dr. H calls. I know the graphics say that Dr. H was the initial raiser and that I called, but you'll just have to take my word for it here. So heads up to an ace-high board which whiffs everything for our exact hand except a few ambitious backdoor draws, but we can still represent some of the strongest hands on this board that Dr. H simply won't have when he overlimps in the cutoff and calls my raise. So let's start an adventure. I fire out a small bet before the doctor decides he'd like to cut our expedition short and check raises us on a flop that should heavily favor myself as the pre-flop raiser. And let's say he did flop a set or two pair. Wouldn't he want this perceptively aggressive opponent who's shown the propensity to bluff and blast off over all three streets to continue to do that? Yeah, I'm not really buying it. If he had a hand that was very strong, why would he want to cut our expedition short with hands like Jack High and Queen High when we're likely going to be bluffing into him on the flop, the turn, and the river? Well, joke is on him. I have King High, and I 3-bet this flop to $1,000. Planning on a big bet on many different turns to put even an ace in a miserable spot, which, to be honest, I don't even believe he has. Dr. H, however, not one to give up easily, and makes the call with his middle pair and plethora of backdoor draws. If I were to handpick a single card out of this deck, it would be the deuce of clubs, and the dealer obliges. Not only do we pick up a backdoor flush draw that we were hoping to stumble upon, but we also have a straight draw, so any three would give us a very, very well disguised straight. With all that being said, I see absolutely no reason to slow down, since if I flopped a strong ace, a set, or two pair myself, I'd like to get a lot of money in this pot on the turn, so I'll be doing the same thing with my best bluffs, and certainly on a board that I'm going to have far more of the strongest hands, and especially when it's going to be very difficult for us to be bluffing here. We could have a hand like Ace King, Ace Queen, Ace 8, Pocket 8s, Pocket Aces, and what natural bluffs do we have on this board that we're planning to 3-bet with? Maybe a hand like 5-6 or 6-7, but are most people taking that as a flop 3-bet bluff? Nah. I think we could put a ton of pressure on every hand he has now, planning to tell the story on the flop, the turn, and even the river if it comes to that. I don't think he has a very strong hand, but even if he did, unless he flopped a set or a two pair, it's going to be very difficult for him to hang on when I bet big on this turn and potentially go all in on the river. So I throw out another $2,200 bet, and after some deliberation from the doctor, he decides it's time to take his medicine as he hands his cards back to the dealer. And I'd say that's a pretty successful first adventure of the day, and who wouldn't trust an innocent-looking face like that to have the goods?
Poor Seth.
I mean, yes, definitely. He definitely thought his eights were no good. He took a very strong line and got played back anyway.